us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important tasks in this our island. Let thy blessing descend upon us here gathered, and grant that we may, as with the present, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote the honor and glory and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. All which we seek in thy name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Please be seated.
Motion for the approval of the order paper as circulated.
Mr. President, good morning, and good morning one and all. I rise to move a motion for the approval of the order paper as circulated.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion.
The question is that the motion for the approval of order paper as circulated be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Messages from the Deputy Governor General. Announcements by the President. Papers to be laid. Statements by ministers.
Mr. President, I rise with your leave to give a brief statement, some information that's pertinent to the general public on behalf of the Ministry of... Yeah, it's on. On behalf of the Ministry of Education. Getting me? Okay. President, as we are all aware, we have been living for the past few months in the time of COVID-19 under the scourge of the coronavirus that causes the COVID-19, and this caused our schools to be out for the last part of the second term of the school year 2019-2020 and the full last term for 2020. We've, however, Mr. President, been able to get our schools reopened for September 2020, the start of the new school year. And so I just wanted to report to the general public on what has been happening. Our schools were able to restart, and from all of the reports that we have gotten from each and every school, it has been mostly smooth. It has not been without its up and downs, but we are thankful that we are able to keep our students in school physically when so many other territories are not able to do that. Our primary schools, the students are back at school all day. That's from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoons. We have had to put a lot of protocols in place, the wearing of masks, the sanitization of students, hand sanitizer when they come in the morning. And we have had to procure some new furniture to accommodate the social distancing rules that we have had to implement in our schools. So the government had to procure quite a bit of desks, and we are still in the process of procuring more furniture so that we can better accommodate the social distancing in our schools. So the primary schools are in full operations all day. Our daycare centers and our preschools, they are back in operation, and we are very thankful for that. The government had to open a second segment of the Charlestown preschool because we had a large number of students to accommodate, and we therefore had to open a second site to accommodate those students. In terms of our high schools, the public high schools on Nevis, both of them are in operation and are operating on a shift system. And what the shift system is that we have some students who come into school and they have a morning session. So they have physical classes in the mornings, and then we have another set of students who have physical classes at afternoons. So when students are not having physical classes, they have online learning. So we have implemented a shift system that some students come in the morning and some come in the afternoon. But it does not mean that the students are not getting that learning and teaching experience while they're not in school. They are doing online classes. We have had to do that to accommodate for the social distancing because of the space in the schools and the number of students that we have. From all indications from the principals and the staff at both high schools, the shift system seems to be working out very, very well. We have had to implement a strict sanitizing protocol where the classes are all cleaned before the next shift starts. So when the morning shift moves out, we clean the classrooms before the students for the afternoon shift comes in. That means that the government has had to employ full-time cleaners at all of the government schools. Also, for the students who travel on the school bus, we have had to employ bus attendants to be on each bus, and these bus attendants, they sanitize the buses before students come on, and they sanitize them after students leave, so to accommodate the next shift. The government is also, through a partnership with a private entity, we have also procured 4 additional school buses, 2 of which should be on island before the end of this year. So hopefully when the new school term starts in January, we'll have the services of 2 additional school buses, and then sometime in the not too distant future from that, we're going to have the services of an additional 2 school buses. So the ministry and the government has indeed been working and trying to make the situation better. Teachers, parents, students, everybody has had to adjust to the new normal, and so I want to continue to implore them to do the necessary things, and I want to continue to commend them for the work that they have done. Our teachers are in school earlier than normal, and they are staying later than normal. If you look at the instance with the high schools, they have to be in earlier. I think school starts at 8 now to accommodate the shift, and then they are there till after 4 in the afternoon. So we want to commend them for going the extra mile, and we want to continue to implore them to do their best under these circumstances. To report a little bit on the overseas exams that we had, the CSEC exams and the CAPE exams. I think we are all aware that the exams were a little bit belated this year. They were put back to late June, early July, when they would have normally been in May and June, and the results also came back late this year. And I want to say that we still have not received the finalized results from CXC. And this year has been a year of anomalies. So we have had quite a few queries in several territories. And even here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have had some queries. And here in Nevis, we have had also. We had requests for 40 reviews at the CSEC level. So 40 subject reviews have gone off to CXC, 40 results to be reviewed. And at the Cape level, we have had 18 grades sent off to be reviewed. So that is one of the things that has been presenting a challenge to CXC in finalizing these results. But we had the preliminary results nonetheless, and there are some things that we can see from the preliminary results without me going and calling any students' names, because those results have not been finalized yet, so I don't want to preempt anything. But the results look good so far this year. For instance, at the Gingerland Secondary School, according to the preliminary results, we had 359 subjects written, as opposed to last year where we had 333. And this trend we have seen at all of the high schools. If we were to look at the Nevis International Secondary School, they had 117 subjects written as opposed to 53 written in 2019. So all across the board, we are seeing an improvement in the number of subject entries written. At the Charlestown Secondary School, we had 642 subject entries written as opposed to 613 in 2019. So it means that our students are writing more subjects. We had 92 students writing subjects in 2020 and 91 in 2019. So one more student in 2020 than in 2019, but a lot more subjects written. So the students are writing more and more subjects, and the passes are also at a very good rate. For instance, at the Charlestown Secondary School, for this year, we had a percentage pass of 88.5%, and that's an improvement over last year, where the percentage pass rate was 85%. So we had an improvement at the Charlestown Secondary School. While we did not have an improvement at the Nevis International Secondary School, that could have been expected since they had a really big jump. They doubled the number of subject areas that they wrote. So last year, they wrote 53 subjects were written, and they had a passing rate of 96%. This year, they wrote 117 subjects and had a pass rate of 73. So we could have expected a little drop-off due to the fact that the number of subjects were doubled. At the Gingerland Secondary School, they maintained a very high passing percentage, a percentage of 91.1, which is an improvement over last year, where the percentage pass rate was 88%. So despite the fact that we've had to contend with the COVID-19 this year, we see that our schools have still been able to maintain a high standard, and we see that they have been able to improve in many, many areas, and that is commendable. I am hopeful, Mr. President, that we will have the finalized report from CXC in short order, and then at that time I would be able to give a more detailed report to the general public. I want to say one more little thing before I close off my statement. The government here on Nevis, we have been able to partner with the Republic of China on Taiwan to implement a little project here on Nevis to introduce the Mandarin language to our students here on the island of Nevis. So just recently we were able to secure the services of a Miss Chen, who is a certified graduate teacher. She would have received her college degree in teaching Mandarin as a second language. And through a partnership with our good friend the Taiwanese, she is here on Nevis, and she is working in our 2 public high schools to pilot a project to start teaching our students here on Nevis that Mandarin. I am told that the project has been structured in such a way that she's going to start with the first formers. And based on the reviews we have been getting, our schools and our students, they really like it, and they have really warmed up to it. And I believe that in some conversations that we have had, that the Taiwanese have, I don't want to use the word promise, but they have told us that they're going to get us a few more volunteers so that we can expand this project in short order. And I think that this is something that is very, very good for our students here on Nevis and for Nevisians on a whole. If you know the Mandarin language, then you can talk to and communicate with a few billion people. Between English and Mandarin, you have 2 of the major languages here on the whole world. And for our students to be able to get that experience starting at the first form, by the time they are out of school, they should be fluent Mandarin speakers. We also know that we have a relationship with our Taiwanese partners, where some of our students get scholarships to go to Taiwan to study. And part of the experience is that they are immersed in the language program so that they can learn the language before they actually start the schooling. Having a project such as this would eliminate would lessen the need for a lot of that. So a lot more of our students would be able to take advantage of those opportunities. Mr. President, with those few words, I want to thank you. May it please you.
A pleasant good morning to everyone. Mr. President, I too seek your permission to make a brief statement on some matters that I would want to share with the general public as it pertains to health. Mr. President, we have witnessed the reopening of our borders, and in so doing, we at the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, and by extension the COVID Task Force, we want to advise persons as to the importance of remaining resilient and ramping up our own individual security as it pertains to the protocols that have been put in place. For the next few sittings, Mr. President, you will hear and learn so much about COVID and the coronavirus and the new normal, because it appears as though this is really and indeed the new normal that we have to go through for maybe a few more years. And so I want to say to the general public that the protocols are still in place. Persons would have heard about the bubble, which has now burst, and so we go back to the protocols that were established earlier. For those persons from overseas, you are still required to go online and fill in your application form and await approval from the head of the task force. Upon arrival in Nevis, you will be screened at the airport and other ports of entry. Work is ongoing to ensure that we are fully operational at all the ports of entry. However, at the Vance W. Amory Airport, there are 2 booths that have been erected, and you will be tested for, your temperature will be tested, and you will have to give travel history information as to your travel history, and then other protocols would be adhered to. Any visible signs of sneezing and things like that will be given special attention. So I am advising persons, those on the outside who are coming back, that you are to still go online, fill in your application, wait for your approval, and then 72 hours before you travel, you are to upload a positive, a negative test, sorry, a negative COVID test, and that will be your initial criteria for traveling. So I would encourage persons to also adhere to all the advisories, because the advisories, they are out there. Persons, the task force, they are putting out advisories every day. So kindly listen to those. In terms of the health protocols that were in place before, that wearing of masks, sneezing in your bent elbow, washing your hands and sanitizing, those protocols are still in place. And as a matter of fact, with the borders reopening, we are expected to do that even more often. Wipe down areas that are frequently used. And so we in ourselves have to take responsibility for a number of the protocols that are in place that we ourselves have to enforce. The Health Promotion Unit continues to do an excellent job in advising persons. We continue to update daily the information dashboard, the health dashboard, so that persons could go online and see information as to what is happening in the world, what is happening around us, and what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis, and where we are in terms of our risk factor, how we fear with the COVID. So kudos to the Health Promotion Unit as they continue to give the general PSAs on the COVID-19 protocols. At Alexandra, we have been doing a number of remedial work so as to ensure that our facilities are ready. We can say at this point that we have 16 designated beds for COVID patients. We have 19. We have 8 at Alexandra. We have 8 at an off-site isolation unit, and we have 3 at the flamboyant homes. Those at the flamboyant homes would only be for flamboyant residents. So we have actually 16 available for the general public. We continue to ramp up in the purchase of our PPEs, our protective clothing, our infrastructure in terms of machinery and equipment. We are awaiting a specialist, a technician, to come to Nevis to set up a piece of equipment. We have a chemical analyzer. We are waiting on that person to come, and that will improve our testing capabilities here on Nevis. So that is outstanding, but we are hoping that that person would come in short order. The challenge we met with that is that the technician who we were liaising with has since left that company, the company who usually services this special equipment, and so we are in the process, or the company is liaising with us in the process of getting another technician to come and commission that piece of equipment. So we are awaiting. But by and large, Mr. President, the clarion call is out for persons to adhere to the protocols and to take personal responsibility for upkeeping of these protocols. As much as we are fighting COVID, there are other diseases that we are fighting as well. And I want to make special mention of this month, we look at World Diabetes Day. Non-communicable diseases, the diabetes and the hypertension, we are being plagued by such, and so we still have to keep up to speed with what's happening in that area. I want to place on record our profound thanks to the government of China, Taiwan, who has sent a technical person to assist us in dealing with our non-communicable diseases. 3 years ago, they had an initial project in which they looked at the chronic kidney disease. That's the end stage of the NCDs. However, they have sent a new person in Mr. William Chan, who actually came out of quarantine just last week and will be meeting with the stakeholders here on Nevis tomorrow. He has come and he will be on another 4-year stint. What he will be doing now, though, instead of looking at the end stage chronic kidney disease, he will be looking at early intervention. And so he will be collaborating with stakeholders such as the Ministry of Education as they do the school meals in the school. He'll be meeting with persons from the antenatal organization and the renal society. And so the stakeholders will be those persons who are in the business of looking at diseases, non-communicable diseases, as well as persons who are preparing foods for our young people and persons who have already been diagnosed with these two very nagging diseases, being hypertension and diabetes. So we welcome Mr. Chen to St. Kitts and Nevis. He'll be based on St. Kitts, but will be actively doing work over here on Nevis. I want to draw your attention as well, Mr. President, to the long-awaited salary upgrade for the nurses. It was something that was in the making for a long time. However, we are happy to say that as of last month, the nurses, some 70+ nurses, were able to receive their long overdue salary upgrade. I want to say to the others, I know other demographic in the health sector have been agitating, but it is a work in progress. We would have already regularized the salaries of the nursing attendants. We have now looked and taken care of the nurses. The next tranche will be looking at the nursing assistants, the non-established worker, and the non-established workers. So I would want to say to those persons that your turn will come. It has to be done incrementally since we are cash-strapped. But at the end of the day, we will take care of all these persons as it pertains to the regularizing their salaries. I want to say from this podium, thanks to our frontline workers who continue to work assiduously in keeping us healthy in Nevis, and especially at this time as we are challenged with COVID-19, they are at risk, most at risk, because they're at the front line, and they come out every day without murmur, and they do their jobs, they do what is expected of them, and that is to keep all of us safe. So I want to say thank you, and I cannot say it enough, how appreciative we are to the frontline workers for the work that they have been doing. Gender affairs, we are in the second tranche of boot camp, and we are all aware that we have seen a number of persons losing their jobs, 280 from Four Seasons, the closure of the bank branch here in Nevis, and other areas. And so what we have been doing from the gender affairs standpoint, we have been encouraging persons with ideas, business ideas, to get some training as to how to start your business, how to market it, manage it, how to keep it afloat. And so we are in the second tranche of boot camps. The first one we saw 15 persons graduating. Because of space, we have to cut the classes. And this tranche, we have another 15 persons who will graduate from that training in particular. We must thank the government of China, Taiwan, who has made available some $5 million towards entrepreneurship for women and for young persons. And so the women are now capitalizing on this very important initiative, and we continue to work closely with our allies, the government of China, Taiwan, and we indeed thank them again for this very important initiative. We have just seen in the month of October, we had breast cancer awareness, and I just want to say and to remind women the importance, and men, the importance of doing self-examination. I would not want this awareness to be done only in October, because we have seen an increase in the number of diagnoses, especially in women, of breast cancer. So we are saying that we will be putting out advisories throughout the year, but we want to remind women of the importance of doing self-examinations on a monthly basis, and if by chance you find anything abnormal, to check your doctors as soon as possible. This month, November, is International Men's Month, and the Department of Gender is having some activities to commemorate this month. One of the activities is that I see here, men can cook. So I am throwing the invitation out to as many men as possible to apply to the department, and they will have a selection process, and they will be given some free cooking classes, which will be done by Chef Henville. I want to nominate the Honorable Eric Evelyn to take advantage of this very important initiative, and all those who will want to be a part. So that for me is a very important event that I am advising our men if they are seeking just hints. Probably you can cook already, but maybe you just need, a refresher, so you can take advantage of this very important initiative. During the month of November as well, from November 25th to December 10th, we observe the United Nations 16 Days of Activism, and this is a campaign against gender-based violence. At the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, and from our mental health unit as well, we have seen an increase in the number of gender-based violence, and we are thinking that it is because of our present situation with the COVID, persons being locked down, persons have lost their jobs. We have become less tolerant of each other, and because of that we have seen gender-based violence on the rise. And so we will want to flag it this year in a very real way, so that we can bring awareness to this very depressing situation, but we have to look at it and we have to deal with it as we go along. And so, Mr. President, I think with that brief remarks, I Thank you for your indulgence.
Minister Member, I want you to, for the benefit of the general public, you were saying that the portion you mentioned 72 hours before on the COVID matter. I think you used the word, you said positive, and then you correct yourself. But could you kindly, for the benefit of those listeners, to go through that again for me, please? Thank you.
Okay. When you are preparing to come to Nevis, to come home,
Yes.
you are expected, first of all, to go online and complete the online application. The online application would ask you to upload a negative COVID-19 test. You must do so 72 hours before you intend to fly. The day before you, 3 days before you intend to fly. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, I understand. No, that was not my my intention. No, the COVID test must be taken 72 hours. Within 72 hours prior to traveling. No, it doesn't mean that you take it 2 weeks before and you upload it 72 hours before. The test itself must be taken 72 hours before you travel.
And it must be negative.
And it must be negative. Yes. I hope that has clarified.
Well, it's within 74 hours. They take 24 hours before, 48 hours before. It has to be within
72 hours. Okay. So with further clarification, it could be taken within 24 hours, 36 hours, but it cannot be beyond 72 hours. Okay. So I hope that I have made myself abundantly clear on that note. And for persons needing further clarification, they can go to the website as well as they can call the head or any member of the COVID task force for further clarification. May it please you.
Mr. President, I rise to seek your leave to update this Honorable House and members of the general public on a few matters within my ministry. I will not be very long because I know within the next month we'll be back here and I think we'll be coming with some lengthy reports. Mr. President, I want to start on a very high note. And I believe many persons would be aware by now, but I want to just remind persons or inform persons who may not have heard that my ministry would have, over the past week, last week, Tuesday, the 27th of November, we would have officially launched the Yes to Success, or the YTS Skills Training and Diversion site there at Penny's. And Mr. President, I say it's a very high note because I think it's a signature moment for the Department of Social Services that spearheaded that site. And of course, it's a signature moment for my ministry and for the Nevis Island administration. Of course, we know that whatever we do in this administration, Mr. President, people are at the center. And this launch of this site is another demonstration that this government, Mr. President, has the people of Nevis at heart. And in particular, we are talking now about our young people. And in this particular instance, we're talking about our at-risk youth. Now, Mr. President, this site will be used primarily for skills training, and it is also what we call a diversion site, meaning we in St. Kitts and Nevis, we are part of a program of the OECS, the Juvenile Justice Reform Program, JJRP, and we are trying our best, all of the OECS countries, to prevent our young men from ending up in the prison system. And so if the young men or the young women get themselves in trouble and they go to court, instead of going to prison, they will be sent to that site for reform. We will also be working with the Ministry and Department of Education, where when children are suspended, instead of going home, Mr. President, they will be sent to that site for reform as well. Now, I am very proud of what we are doing there, because even though we had the official commissioning of the site last week, Tuesday, the Yes to Success program has been going for quite some time now. And so far, we have impacted over 70 young people in the Yes to Success program. We are currently on our 6th cycle of the program, and within this cycle, we are currently training some young persons in pottery. We know that this is a dying art form in Nevis, unfortunately, and we want to keep that art form going. So we'll be training young persons in pottery, the art of pottery. We will be training young men in heavy equipment operation. And some young persons are currently involved in a 6-week digital jobs training targeting young people throughout the OECS. Mr. President, apart from that, the program is also trying to assist persons in organizing internships when they're leaving schools. And of course, we have also assisted persons in getting full-time jobs as well. So overall, we are looking after the young persons. I think this is very important because of late we have been trying to spend more time on skills training. We know a lot of the times when persons leave school, there's a lot of focus on the academics. But we also have to look at children who are not very academically inclined as well. And so this site will cater to those young people. Mr. President, I want to take this opportunity to say a very big thank you to USAID and the OECS for assisting in the funding of this site, and of course the Nevis Island Administration. And I want to specifically thank as well the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, the NHLDC. And they would have provided the land on which the site is. I want to use this opportunity, Mr. President, to just encourage our young people on the island of Nevis to take advantage of the facility. We have quite a bit of equipment there, and I want as well that when they take advantage of the facility, that they take care of the equipment that is being used there. Mr. President, I want to say that this is a big deal for the young people on Nevis. It's a big deal for Nevis because it actually is the first site of its kind in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the site has been sanctioned by the OECS as an approved diversion site in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to say, Mr. President, as I would have said before, that this is another huge success story for my ministry. And within my departments and within my ministry and within this CCM-led Nevis Island administration, we don't have the word failure in our vocabulary. All we talk about is success. And that is why I'm so extra proud to be talking about this huge success story. I want to say kudos to the director, Ms. Sandra Maynard. She would have worked extremely hard to get the site here too. So thanks to her, the Director of Social Services, and her team. And I'm also proud to say, Mr. President, that what we do here in St. Kitts and Nevis is far-reaching. Because since the site was launched last week, Ms. Maynard has been getting calls from persons willing to assist. And I've actually gotten a message from all the way in Texas, from someone from Texas Southern University who read about the launch of the site and is interested in putting resources and training into the site there at Pinnis as well, Mr. President. Mr. President, still in social services, we know that we have just completed the month of the elderly, or the month of the seniors in October. Of course, we know that here in Nevis, the programs and plans that we have for our seniors, second to none, the best in the region. The best, absolute best in the region. We normally have a very packed calendar of activities for the month of October. Unfortunately, because of COVID, Mr. President, we had to scale back activities this year. And so we just had a few activities during the month of October. We had the highlight of the month, which was the closing activity last week, Thursday, at the Jessup Community Center. And we would have honored 5 seniors on the island, 1 from each parish. And I want to once again congratulate them. From St. Paul's, we had Miss Bernadette Lewis. From St. Thomas's, Constantia David. From St. James, Violet Perkins. St. George, Reuben Williams. And from St. John's, Carlton Pinney. And we would have also awarded 2 of our caregivers, Miss Essie D. Lashley and Mrs. Janet Herbert. And of course, once again, I want to congratulate these persons for the human service that they would have given to the island of Nevis. Quickly, Mr. President, on to sports. Of course, we know that with the COVID situation on the island of Nevis, sports was suspended, as was most activities. Thankfully, we are seeing sports coming back. And my department is working diligently to have more sports being played on the island of Nevis. In the area of netball, we are trying to revive that sport. And this coming Saturday, the Department of Sports, in collaboration with the Nevis Netball Association, and of course, the Nevis Netball Association was revived through the efforts of my department as well. And so this coming Saturday, we'll be having the start of a tournament called Netball Is Back. And I'm encouraging persons to come on out and show your support to the ladies in the sport of netball. We know at one point in time we were a very powerful nation, St. Kitts Nevis, when it comes to netball in the region. And we want to get there, but we must start. And so we are restarting and getting netball back on track. And this coming Saturday, we have the official launch of the tournament at the Brownie Hill Hard Court. And that starts at 5. After that, we have a game. And then thereafter, we have a 6-week period where we'll have games every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. 1 game each on Tuesday and Thursday, and 2 games on Saturday. We have 5 teams, and the 5 teams taking part will be DSC Elite Ballers, DSC Uprising Stars, and that DSC stands for Dynamic Social Club, Venomous Vixens, Blue Tides, and Hurricanes. And so we are inviting persons to come out and support the young ladies in the sport of netball. Mr. President, I want to also use this opportunity to congratulate the youths of the future. They would have recently won the 2019-2020 football finals. They would have played against All Ballers, and that would have taken place on October the 25th at the ETW Park. 3rd place were the Bath United, and 4th place Hard Times. I also want to congratulate the Nevis Football Association for ensuring that the tournament was complete. Of course, there was a big lull because of the COVID, and I want to congratulate them as well. They are now part of the full-fledged part of the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association. And in cricket, Mr. President, the Nevis Cricket Association, they are currently hosting a 2020 tournament at the VOJN grounds, played on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm encouraging persons to go and support that tournament as well. Mr. President, in community development, this past Saturday, the 31st of October, we had the Barnscott Breadfruit Festival. And this time around, apart from just having the festival, we also had a breadfruit competition as well. And so persons from Barnscott were invited, those who have good culinary skills were invited to be a part of the competition. Mr. President, it went exceptionally well. Of course, we know that breadfruit is something that is very plentiful most of the times on Nevis. And of course, with the thrust, with the current thrust for food security, we are encouraging our persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis to eat local. And I must say that I was very pleased with what I saw and what I tasted on Saturday in Barnsdott. They had things like breadfruit lasagna, the oil dung. They had breadfruit balls, breadfruit sticks, everything, breadfruit pancake, curried breadfruit, anything you could think about, Mr. President. And trust me, the dishes were excellent. I want to give kudos to all those who prepared. And for the competition, we want to say congratulations to the first 3 place winners. First place went to Hilarina Liburd. Second, Bianca Williams. And third, Sophia Cindy Brooks. So I want to congratulate the winners. We know Hilarina can drive us and she can talk a lot, but I didn't know she can cook as well. So Hilarina, congratulations to you and the other winners. And we want to especially congratulate Ms. Maloney and her team at Community Development and Mr. John Hanley, the PS from Tourism, who would have partnered with us in hosting this festival and this competition. And finally, in the area of culture, of course, we know that we are still trying to remain relevant in these COVID times. And right now, the NCDF, they are involved in some training in folklore and music at the David Freeman Center of Excellence in Gingerland and at the Nevis Cultural Complex. And persons who are interested can sign up to be a part of these activities. Mr. President, with your permission as well, just before I sit, I just want to take this opportunity. I started on a very high note, and unfortunately I will end on a very low note. Mr. President, with your permission, I just want to take this opportunity to just extend condolences to some folks in my constituency. My constituency has been going through a lot, especially last week. We would have lost 2 promising young men from my constituency, young Walters, who resided at Cligot, and young Mulcair, who resided at the top of government, the top of Zion. And of course, we know that shockwaves really ran across Nevis last week when we heard of the untimely passing of these 2 young men. And so I want to extend heartfelt condolences to the families of young Walters and young Mulcair. And just to let you know that our prayers are with you. It's very, very difficult in times like these. Sometimes you don't know what to say to families in times like these, Mr. President, especially when it's young, upcoming, promising young men. I would have also lost someone from my constituency, from my village of Hanleyswood last night as well. And so I want to extend condolences to the family of the late Lolita Pemberton. And of course, I think all of us know that we lost a young lady who works for government in Bath Village. I think Honorable Spencer will speak when he comes, but I also want to send condolences to the family of that young lady in that untimely passing this morning, Mr. President. Mr. President, may it please you.
Morning, Mr. President. Morning, everyone. I rise, Mr. President, with a saddened heart to make a brief statement as per the order paper. And Mr. President, we were awoken this morning of the tragic news of the passing of one of my employees at the Nevis Labor Department, Mrs. Judy Williams Hanley. I want, Mr. President, to use this opportunity, certainly on my own behalf, on behalf of my wife and family, on behalf of the ministry, to express my sincere and heartfelt condolences to the family
of Judy. Mr. President, I also want to offer my condolences to the community of Bath Village, because I believe that all of us in Nevis would recognize that Bath Village is a very tightly knit and close community, certainly for their loss as well. And for the management and staff of the Labor Department, I know that they are going through a very difficult period this morning. I also want, Mr. President, to extend my condolences to her husband and pray that, and the entire family, and pray that in this difficult period, that they would look to their Creator God, not for solution or understanding, Mr. President, but for comfort. Mr. President, I want to advise the general public that we have made some adjustments within the Ministry of Communications Works that came into effect as of the 1st of September this year. The former director of the Public Works Department, Mr. Dior Raoul Pemberton, have been transferred, Mr. President, to the Planning Department as the new director. The director who was at the Planning Department have been reassigned to our newly created GIS unit, Geographic Information System Unit. Also, Mr. President, the new director of the Public Works Department is no stranger to the Public Works Department, Mr. Javon Williams. He has worked there before, a qualified engineer, and he has taken over from Mr. Pemberton. Also, we have made some changes within the Water Department. We have created an operations manager post, and we have reassigned the former manager of the Water Department, Mr. Roger Hanley, to that post. We have asked a young, vibrant, and talented young lady, Ms. Tonya Bartlett, to assume the responsibility of the Nevis Water Department. It's the first female in that position, and I believe, Mr. President, that we expect, and the people of Nevis expect great things from her as it regards to water on the island of Nevis. I want to encourage all of the workers in these various departments, Mr. President, to embrace the change. We felt that if we are to progress in life, there must be change. We cannot remain stagnant, and I want to say to the workers that we at the ministry encourage them to give their full support to these new managers and these new directors as they try to fulfill the mandate of the ministry and work on behalf of the people of Nevis. I also want to advise, Mr. President, that the water filtration system that we have been embarking on for some months, we have made some significant progress with that project. We have seen the impact of COVID on that particular project because the borders of St. Kitts and Nevis were closed, and the engineers and technicians who were responsible for the final commissioning and testing of this facility were not able to travel to Nevis for some months. They have been here on the island for the past few weeks, and we have seen the transformation, Mr. President, of that new water filtration system that we believe will add improved water quality on the island of Nevis. We know, Mr. President, that there will be an additional 300,000+ gallons of water in the new storage tank there at Hamilton. There will be introduction of new technology. There will also be, Mr. President, the transfer of knowledge and capacity building to our electricians and our water testing team. And we are hoping that we will have this facility commissioned very shortly as the engineers from Adage and Lakeshore are doing their final testing and putting the facility through the paces. I also, Mr. President, want to advise that we have at the Public Works Department procure a piece of machinery. It's called a milling machine. And I recognize, Mr. President, that there has been a significant demand, and the demand continued to grow exponentially as it regards to the development of road infrastructure on the island of Nevis. And we have purchased this piece of machinery, Mr. President, that we feel would help the road crew at the Public Works Department meet the demands of the island of Nevis. We recognize that throughout the length and breadth of Nevis, on the island main road and in the secondary village roads, that there have been some deterioration of those roads, while there continue to be a demand for improved roads in the various villages. We have had, Mr. President, in the month of October, some virtual training from the supplier who would have supplied to the Nevis Island Administration that piece of machinery. And we are waiting for them to arrive here on the island to do the final training and final commissioning of that machinery. I know there is a lot of work for that piece of machinery to be done. I know my good Minister of Health have been asking me when I'm going to do her parking lot at the hospital. The good folks at Youth and Sports have been asking about their tennis courts throughout the island. And throughout the various villages, Mr. President, we continue to see the need for improvement in the road structure. And we are hoping that we will be able to meet those demands, Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe that this piece of equipment, twinned with the water filtration system, twinned also with the various changes that we have made at the management levels within the ministry, that we'll continue to see great development here on the island of Nevis for the interest and for the people of Nevis. Mr. President, with those brief words, thank you, and may it please.
Mr. President, I rise to make some brief comments and to give some report, so to speak, as to the happenings in the various ministries and departments that fall under my responsibility. It is, of course, a good time to do so because we are heading into the final quarter of the year. And as you go through the year, you tend to assess where you are and see in which way you can make further improvements if you can, so as to finish the year in a strong position or a vibrant way. This morning I come to report mostly on agriculture, fisheries, and of course some information regarding the NHLDC. But of course I'll start with agriculture, in that seemed to be the in thing, or the seeing the need to, of course, buy into that long-term tradition that we have sought to emphasize, and that is grow what you eat and eat what you grow, or support local, buy local, eat local. Those campaigns have been around for an eternity, so to speak. So we've been talking that way, and now we are certainly living what we have been talking and speaking about. And I must commend the entire Nevisian public for their renewed interest in agriculture. And Mr. President, I say all that because the Ministry and Department of Agriculture are pleased with the responses that we've had, if not over the years, more so over the last 6 months or more. You have heard about COVID-19, and persons would always want to link many things to COVID-19. Yes, that pandemic is with us, and a lot of things that are happening these days are linked to it, yes. But I will go back just a little, Mr. President, and say that back in 2018, for example, when we procured a number of pieces of equipment through the generosity of the Republic of China, Taiwan, those pieces of equipment were 2 brand new tractors, a backhoe, I believe it was 2 pickups, yes. And in recent times, the ministry would have sought the assistance of the Ministry of Finance to procure additional jeeps that are being used by our extension officers. So we have been building that momentum over the years. And along came COVID in 2020, as of March of this year, when that really came to bear on this island. We were prepared because the machineries were in place, the plans and programs were in place, and that's why we were able to roll out a stimulus package for the people of Nevis, or those budding farmers here on the island of Nevis who would have benefited from free seeds and seedlings, free plowing, water, free water, and other implement and equipment and other inputs that we were able to provide farmers, both commercial and backyard farmers with here on the island of Nevis. And I want to commend the cabinet of the Nevis Island administration, because you see, agriculture has not always gotten the type of support financially. I'm speaking of the budgeted amount that we have allocated for agriculture over the years. It is still not enough, but little is much. And we've been trying our best to utilize the little bit of resources that we have been given annually as a ministry and a department. So I want to say thank you to all who have bought into what we have been preaching over the years. But Mr. President, the proof is in the eating of the pudding. What is there to show for it? I have just a few numbers to show, because we'll be back here in a few weeks' time to give a more glowing report, a more detailed report as to what we would have accomplished over the past year. I will say to you, Mr. President, when one compares this third quarter to third quarter 2019, so third quarter 2020 compared to third quarter 2019, we would have seen a tremendous increase in the production of cabbages, for example. I am seeing here a 266% increase in the production of cabbages. This will blow your mind, Mr. President. The production of sweet potatoes, we have seen an increase of over 2,000% increase in the production of sweet potatoes when compared to the same period of 2019. Now, 2,000? 2000%. That's 2,000% increase. Cabbage was 266% increase over the same period last year. And that is just a sampling. But also I can talk about honeydew and cantaloupe, for example. We have seen an increase of 315% over the same period last year when compared to the same period this year. Now those numbers are staggering numbers, Mr. President. But it speaks to something. It speaks to what I said earlier, that the reset button was pressed earlier this year, and we said that we have to learn to feed ourselves. We have to feed ourselves. As a matter of fact, you've heard it from a member for Nevis too. You've heard it from myself. We have always given that example. That if, for example, one day or 1 week tropical is unable to come, some other shipping line is unable to come, The question is whether we'll be able to sustain ourselves for that week, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, or a year later. And I do believe we can, Mr. President. If these numbers are saying something to us, it tells us that if we continue to press on, if we continue to persevere, if we continue to plant more and produce more, then we can feed ourselves here on the island of Nevis. We have done so in the past. Nevis was seen as the breadbasket of the Federation of the Leeward Islands, so to speak. We have shipped copra and other products to as far as Dominica before. We have shipped onion out of Nevis before as well. So it therefore means if we were to provide the right environment or the correct environment, and we were to provide the necessary resources that are needed, then of course our people will be willing and able to do what is required of them. And when I speak of resource, I'm talking about water, for example. I have to commend the minister responsible for water. And I have to remember that I'm not at a budget presentation as well. But I have to commend the minister responsible for water because, listen, Mr. President, water in Nevis, that resource that many other of our neighboring islands are suffering from the, let's say there is no rainfall for a given month. There are many islands around us who would suffer. Many farmers would start crying out. But that doesn't happen in Nevis. We have sought to improve the water distribution, well, the collection and distribution of water here on the island of Nevis. And this government must be commended, and I must commend the minister responsible. Let me get back on track before I am told by the president to get it right. But anyway, I was speaking about the production that we have done over the last couple of months, Mr. President. And let's say at the abattoir, for example, we have seen a marked increase in the production of meat products there as well. During the last month, we would have reestablished an important committee, Mr. President. I'm not certain if you would have heard this before, but it existed before, the Agriculture Advisory Committee. Now, this is a committee that is made up of farmers, livestock, crop farmers, fisher folks. It is made up of persons who represent the various allied agencies that we are associated with. That is the Republic of China, Taiwan, the FAO, ICA, and also CARDI. We also have on that board, the permanent secretary is the one who is spearheading that board. He chairs that board along with our consultant who we would have engaged his services earlier this year, Mr. Augustine Merchant. So that board is comprised of persons with intellect, experience, persons with who would present to the Department and Ministry of Agriculture various plans and programs to grow agriculture here on the island of Nevis. So they are an advisory committee who would assist us along the way if we are to get agriculture on the right pathway and keep it there. And I want to thank them for agreeing to serve on that particular advisory committee. So that committee will meet once per quarter, but there are smaller committees that would meet every single month so as to assess our progress and what we're doing in agriculture to ensure that we're on track. Now, that committee would have come up with 10 particular crops or products that we can produce and do so at a level so as to minimize the importation of these particular products into Nevis. And these are tomatoes, lettuce, cucumber, watermelon, sweet peppers, eggplant, butternut squash and pumpkin, of course, bananas, and also pork and eggs. Those areas we do believe that we have a comparative advantage in those areas. We do believe we can produce them at a level that will ensure that we minimize, as I said, the importation of those goods, which means that we would minimize the amount of foreign exchange that leaves our borders and go into foreign territories. Now, Mr. President, earlier this month, or last month, in October that is, sorry, we had, for the first time after a very long time, our quarterly reporting session from the Department of Agriculture and the various divisions that are there. Now, the various divisions that reported would have been the Quarantine Division, vet, agro-processing, abattoir, small equipment pool, extension division, forestry, and also our animal health division. Now those areas would have provided us with the statistics and all of the data that they would have compiled based on their effort, whether they would have had progresses or they would have had any fall off in their various duties or the performance of their various duties. But we would have seen some positive numbers in all areas, whether it was in extension, whether it was in the veterinary division, whether it was in crop production, whether it was abattoir or agro-processing. All of the numbers were indeed positive numbers, which speaks volume, because it goes back to what I said at the top. We would have pressed that reset button, and I wanted to be a mantra being said. The reset button was reset on agriculture in this country, on this island to start with, in this country as well, since I'm also the Federal Minister of Agriculture. But since I'm here speaking locally, I'm talking about the island of Nevis. So with that reset button, we have seen some phenomenal growth and some phenomenal numbers. And of course, we are now in the process of constructing, Mr. President, a new marketing division up there at Prospect. What would happen there is that we'll have 6 different freezer compartments there. We're hoping to be that stop for all farmers and provide the marketing conduit, so to speak, for farmers to get those produce to the various hotels, restaurants, supermarkets here on the island of Nevis. You'll hear more about that as we go along, because that, I believe, is a phenomenal step on our part, so as to take the burden off of our farmers. We want our farmers to farm, do what they're charged to do or asked to do, and we will take on some of the responsibilities of marketing their produce. So with that being said, Mr. President, I also want to quickly mention an important event that is coming up here on Friday the 6th, which is tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this will be at the marketing depot right here on the waterfront. They'll be selling some products there, which include sorrel, cucumber, pumpkin, sweet potatoes, cantaloupe, sweet pepper, and those will be sold at our marketing division here from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, right there on the waterfront. So anyone who is listening and want to buy any of those products, please go over there and patronize the marketing division. Also, I see an exciting event that is taking place here up at our agro-processing center, which is dubbed Taco and Subs Day. No, taco and sub. Sub is a sandwich, Mr. President. So they'll have those chicken taco and chicken sub, veggie, beef, fish, and various types of sandwiches and tacos will be offered there. Well, you'll get smoothies, you'll also get special drinks that they said they have here, local drinks, all sorts of things. These will be advertised via the Agriculture Department Facebook page, and also I suppose I did hear it on the radio this morning, on the airwaves, that's Von Radio. So that is another event that I want persons to patronize tomorrow. And also while you're there, you can get your composite bread as well too. They do make some bread there on Fridays. So a lot of things goes on at the agro-processing unit. This is most important though, Mr. President. The abattoir division is accepting orders for their delicious hams, the Christmas ham. You have until the 10th of December. The 10th of December to place your orders. Now, I buy a large amount every year. I spend a couple thousands there. There's a reason why. We always said to support local, so I want my ham to be fresh, tasty, well seasoned, and that's what you get at the abattoir every year. So Gary and his team is waiting for your order, and I want to encourage all of the members of cabinet to buy some hams and give them out to your constituents. The more the merrier. We can supply any quantity of orders. So you have until the 10th of December to place your order, and that I believe is worth the while, because you're supporting local. Every leg of ham that you purchase, it means one less leg of ham is imported into Nevis. And that is what we're striving for. Mr. President, let me move along quickly with my brief statement. It seems like I have to curtail my presentation then, but that's okay. Mr. President, I want to just quickly, we've had a situation here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, to some extent Nevis. You have heard of fish poisoning, some cases of fish poisoning here on the island, or also on the island of St. Kitts. I want to just quickly make a brief statement myself, because I have been privy to most of the information, and of course as the minister responsible for agriculture, fisheries and marine resource in the federal parliament, or federal government, sorry, I believe that I should say something. It is certainly an unfortunate situation that we're dealing with at this time, but I will say to you, Mr. President, as soon as cases were brought to our attention, the Department of Marine Resource would have acted swiftly, quickly, and decisively in that we would have done the appropriate, taken the appropriate measures to ensure that we mitigate any further cases here in the Federation. What we have found out, Mr. President, is that somewhere along the line, some fish would have entered the food system via local fisher folks who would have perhaps caught fish in areas that we feel are prohibited areas. And when I say prohibited areas, they are areas that most of the experienced fishermen here in the Federation would know are somewhat off limit, because of the fact that we know that there have been experiences in the past where fish were caught in those areas and have created difficulties or health challenges for people. We're not pointing a finger at anyone to start with, but what we are asking our fishermen to be is a bit more considerate in their approach, and be a much more compassionate fisherman in the sense, or fisher folk, in the sense that if you know that that is the situation, please do not venture into areas where you believe or we know might create that type of danger to our people. So I want our fishermen to be more careful in their approach. I know there's this rush these days because there is an emphasis to consume more fish than meat on some people's part, because people are living more healthy lifestyle and they're getting their protein from fish these days instead of animals. And I want to say, irrespective of what the demand is, let us be cognizant of the fact that people's lives are at stake. I consume a lot of fish. As a matter of fact, personal experience, I was, afflicted with with a bout of poisoning some years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It is not an experience that I want to wish on anyone. And that is why I'm asking our fisher folks to be more cognizant of the challenges that persons may face when it's all said and done, once they would have consumed these type of fish, or these poisonous fish or fishes. Mr. President, we have done some things in terms of removing all suspected fish that we believe would have created any difficulties from our complex there in Bastia. We haven't had any report from the complex here in Charlestown, but I believe there were 5 cases here in Nevis. Where those cases would have originated from, that is what we're trying to find out. And we're doing the investigation to see what may have been the situation there. But of course, we continue to ensure that our food system is secured. We are seeking to ensure that we are providing our citizens with food safety and food security in every aspect of agriculture, including fisheries as well. And that is why we're craving the support of our fisher folks, and also anyone who are providing food of any sort here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let us be cognizant of whom the customers that we are serving. And of course, we'll continue to educate our general public. As a matter of fact, I will say this to you, Mr. President, prior to this particular circumstance, there was indeed a capital project that was submitted to the federal government to seek to establish the necessary protocol and an institution whereby we can do the necessary testing, water testing, testing of fish products, and also, when I say testing, I'm looking at seeking to establish the content of sulfur and also any other bacteria that might be in our water, or even pesticides or anything like that that might cause a challenge to our food system and our food system, sorry. Now, with that said, Mr. President, off of agriculture, and quickly, I was intending to be very brief, but I want to quickly just say to you that we continue to have our challenges at the NHLDC. Many persons are still waiting for homes to be constructed, but we are still constructing homes, but it's not at the rate that we would have done over the last 3 years at least. We have had our challenges, and in those challenges, we have sought some relief. And when I say relief, we have some mortgages ourselves that we are committed to. And when I say mortgages, I mean loans that we are committed to. And we have sought some relief there so as to ensure that the entity continue to survive. This has been a challenging year. We are almost done with this year, and hopefully next year we'll see a different type of, or some different type of circumstances. But of course, we have been committed to this company in Trinidad, Mr. President, Unit Trust. And we have a mortgage there, or loan there, that we continue to pay. We have asked for their relief for the last 6 months. Our commitment to them monthly is $21,987 US dollars, that is, Mr. President. That is a loan we would have met there in 2013, a loan we continue to service. We still have a balance with that company of $2,695,613.30. That is US dollars, Mr. President. So we are still seeking to service that particular loan. In so doing, we still have demands for homes. Not only that, I want to also bring to the table as well a major, or some major loans that we continue to service that has limited our ability to do some of the things that we are mandated to do. And in terms of what we are committed to locally, for example, Social Security, we have 4 loans that we are committed to. One is a $9 million loan. The other is a $10 million loan. Then a $10 million loan, and of course another $15 million loan. You add all those up, Mr. President, you get 35, that's almost $44 million in loans. Some prior to 2013 and some thereafter. I believe there were 2 loans after 2013, which is 10 and 15 million. All the others we would have met there. So we have a commitment to Social Security monthly of $158,657.14. That is EC dollars. And they have graciously given us a moratorium until the end of this year, so that we can survive, and next year we'll have to honor our obligations to them. Now, in terms of the mortgage relief scheme that we started some years ago, I want to say to those who are capable and able to do so, that relief scheme is still available. We have had just about 29 persons who would have benefited from that, and we have seen the realization of savings of $10,000 up to $38,000 in relief in that regard. How that works, Mr. President, and I want to reiterate, those who can, it's not a selling point this morning, it is something to encourage persons if they can, because there are tremendous benefits to doing so. But how that works is that if you have a balance at the corporation and there are 58 persons who are still paying a mortgage through the NHLDC. Keep in mind, the NHLDC is not a mortgage institution. We are not a lending institution. We are not a financial institution where we have the infrastructure to handle these mortgages. But there are 58 persons who are still currently paying through the NHLDC. But what we have been encouraging those who are there and those who would have gone before, those 29 persons, they would have come and benefited this way. One, the balance that you had going at the NHLDC, you would have received 15% discount on that balance. Then we would have undertaken the cost of doing all of the necessary legal work so that there's no cost involved in the legal transfer of that particular mortgage to a lending institution. And of course, the various banks would have their different interest rates. It's a matter of checking to see who may have the lowest. And now this is for those who can. We're not forcing anyone to do so, but we'll encourage persons who can to still take advantage. And like I said, the savings have ranged from as low as $10,000 up to as much as $38,000 for those who would have benefited. But what that means, you get your title. The title is in your name, of course. You can use that title to do anything you want to do. Whether you want to purchase a motor car, whether you want to send your child or children to school, you can refinance that mortgage. You can do so many things with that title. It is yours. And the power of having that title in your hand is the most important thing, and that is why we'll encourage persons to still take advantage. Mr. President, I would have gone beyond my time. You didn't stop me, which is very good. I thank you very much. But I thank you for the opportunity to just briefly report to the people of the island of Nevis. I may please you, Mr. President.
Personal explanations. Introduction of bill and first reading.
Good morning, Mr. President. I rise to have introduced and read for the first time the bill that is shortly entitled the Nevis Trust and Corporate Services Providers, the Nevis Trust and Corporate Service Providers Bill 2020.
Mr. President, I rise to second motion.
The question is that the bill shortly entitled the Nevis Trust and Corporate Service Providers Bill 2020 be read the first time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Those against? The ayes have it.
A bill to provide for the licensing and supervision of corporate services business and trust business and for matters incidental or auxiliary thereto.
The bill has been read first.
Adjournment.
Mr. President, I rise to move the adjournment of this Honorable House sine die. But since I'm on my feet, Mr. President, please allow me on the occasion of the adjournment to express my very deep condolences to the family of the late Judy Williams Hanley, I think she married name was Hanley, from Bath. We all rose this morning to the very sad news that there was a terrible accident that cost her life. And I wish, as Premier of Nevis, to express to the family, I know her husband very well, I know the entire family very well, my very, very deep condolences on this untimely loss. I also, since I'm on my feet, would like to express to my very good friend, Ms. Mulcair in Zion. Again, the condolences of the Office of the Premier and the Nevis Island Administration on the loss of her young son. A young man I knew very well, a young man who aspired to be a pilot, and one with whom I had had several conversations in that vein. I know he meant so much to his mother, and I would want her to know that our thoughts and our prayers are with her in this very difficult period. These deaths were untimely. I think, Mr. President, we are accustomed to the idea that we will die. We recognize that it is a date that most of us will have to meet. But when it comes suddenly, and it comes to people who are young or otherwise in good health, even more grievously than when it comes when we are in our old age, Mr. President. It reminds us, however, that death is there for all of us, and we know not the day nor the hour. And perhaps these deaths, if there's anything we can take from them, it's to remind us of our own mortality and remind us, Mr. President, of our need, whilst we're still alive, to be kind to each other, to be our brother's keeper and our sister's helper, and to do the very best that we can to make Nevis the best possible place it can be. So with those few words, please, Mr. President, I trust and hope that the family will be comforted by all of our prayers in this very, very difficult period for them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. President, please permit me to also rise on this occasion to offer my sincerest condolences to Mr. Raji Hanley and family on the untimely passing of his wife. My thoughts and prayers are indeed with the family at this time. I also wish to express my sincerest condolences on behalf of the opposition to the McClear family of Zion and also to Mr. Calvin Walters. My thoughts and prayers are also with those families at this time. Mr. President, I also wish to express my profound and beloved gratitude to my constituency, Nevis 5. I take this opportunity to thank them for their continued love and support as I endeavor to serve them in the best way that I can under the circumstances. I also wish to extend my gratitude to the Nevision public. I am aware, Mr. President, that the borders have now reopened, so I just wish to advise everyone to stay vigilant, remain cautious, to encourage persons to comply with the COVID-19 protocols, continue to wear your mask, and practice good hygiene. I also wish to encourage persons, I know these are very challenging times as we experience COVID-19, and I know the economic plight that we are experiencing here in Nevis and perhaps throughout the world. So I just want to encourage persons to keep the faith, to continue to pray and believe in God, and do sincerely hope, and we shall press forward and keep the faith that we shall indeed see good times, and good times will be ahead once more. I thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion for the adjournment sine die.
Question is that this House be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.